Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in silence and felt completely okay with it? No phone, no scrolling, no checking, just silence.
If your answer is, I can't remember, then this episode is for you.
And if your answer is, I do that all the time, then this episode is definitely for you. Because today we're talking about something that is in all of our lives, every single day, something most of us never question.
Social media.
Not the social media you see, but the social media you feel. The quiet ways it is changing how you think, how you compare yourself, how you rest, how you feel about your own life.
And honestly, I didn't realize how much it was affecting me until I stopped using it for 2 weeks. And what I noticed scared me a little.
We'll get to that. Welcome back to English with Heart. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Daniel. And if you're new here, welcome to the family. This is your cozy space to grow your English through real, warm, honest conversations.
Quick reminder before we begin. If you don't understand every single word today, that is completely okay. You don't need to. Just listen. Let the English flow. Your brain is working even when it feels like it isn't. That is real progress.
And this is a B2 level episode, so relax. Stay with us.
And at the end of today's episode, we have our word tour, some really powerful vocabulary connected to this topic. So stay with us for that.
And our comment challenge for today, tell us, have you ever taken a break from social media? What happened? Write it in the comments. Even one sentence. We read every single one.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so I want to start with something I think everyone knows, but nobody really talks about. The comparison trap.
Say more.
You open Instagram or TikTok, and within 30 seconds, you are looking at someone's perfect apartment, their perfect body, their perfect holiday, their perfect relationship. And somewhere in your brain, very quietly, a voice says, why don't I have that?
So quiet. That's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't shout, it just whispers.
Exactly, and before you even realize it, you've gone from feeling fine to feeling like you're somehow behind in life, like everyone else figured something out that you didn't.
And there's a word for this feeling. It's called social comparison. It means measuring your own life against other people's lives. And humans have always done this, even before social media, but social media has made it relentless.
Relentless. That's exactly the right word. Because before you compared yourself to maybe 10 or 20 people around you. Now you're comparing yourself to thousands of people every single day.
And here's what makes it even more unfair. You are comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel.
Oh, that's such a good way to say it.
You see their best moments, their most beautiful photos, their biggest achievements. But you live with your own doubts, your own bad days, your own mess. And that comparison is completely unequal. It was never fair to begin with.
And I think a lot of people know this intellectually. They say, oh, I know social media isn't real. But knowing it and feeling it are two very different things.
Yes, your brain doesn't always care what you know. It reacts to what it sees again and again and again.
And after enough repetition, that quiet whisper becomes the background noise of your life.
But I think the comparison is only one part of it. There's something else that social media is quietly doing, something even more invisible.
What's that?
Slowly, meaningfully, it is stealing your ability to be bored.
Stealing your ability to be bored?
Yes, and I know that sounds strange because who wants to be bored? But boredom is actually incredibly important. When your mind has nothing to do, it starts to wander, and when it wanders, it creates. It solves problems, it processes emotions, it rests.
So boredom is not actually empty time.
No, boredom is productive time that doesn't look productive, and social media has filled every single gap where boredom used to live. Waiting for the bus? Scroll. Eating alone? Scroll. Lying in bed? Scroll. Sitting in silence for 5 seconds? Uncomfortable? Open the phone.
I am very guilty of this.
We all are. I am too. But here's the cost. When you never let your mind be bored, it loses the ability to focus for long periods of time. Your attention span shrinks. Things that require patience, reading a long book, having a deep conversation, sitting with a difficult emotion, start to feel harder.
That's actually something I noticed during my 2 weeks off social media. The first 3 days were uncomfortable. I kept reaching for my phone and there was nothing there. It felt restless.
Restless. That word is so accurate because your brain had been trained to expect constant stimulation, and suddenly the stimulation was gone.
But then, after about 5 days, something shifted. I started noticing things again, small things, the sound of rain, how good coffee actually smells, how interesting a real conversation with a real person feels when you're fully present.
Because your attention was back, you had given it space to recover.
Yes, and I realized I had been half present in my own life for a long time, always somewhere between the real world and the digital one.
That is such an honest thing to say, and I think many people feel that but don't have the words for it yet.
And there's an emotional cost too that I think is the hardest one to admit.
Tell me.
I noticed that after spending a long time on social media, I often felt flat, not sad exactly, not happy, just empty, like I had consumed a lot but received very little.
Like eating a lot of food that has no nutrition.
Exactly, and there's actually a name for this feeling. Researchers call it passive consumption. It means you're absorbing content without engaging with it, without thinking, without feeling deeply, just taking it in. And passive consumption has been linked to lower mood, higher anxiety, and a feeling of disconnection from real life.
Because you are technically connected to hundreds of people online, but you are not truly connecting with anyone.
Yes, and real connection requires presence, attention, vulnerability, the willingness to actually be seen by another person, and scrolling through a feed gives you none of that,
It gives you the feeling of connection without the substance of it.
which is lonelier in a way than just being alone.
That's a really important point. You can feel profoundly lonely in a crowd of people, and you can feel the same kind of loneliness surrounded by thousands of followers.
And I think that's why so many people who seem very active on social media, lots of posts, lots of followers, can still feel deeply unseen because they are getting attention, but they're not getting connection.
Attention and connection are not the same thing. Attention is when someone looks at you. Connection is when someone truly sees you.
That's the difference.
And I think this connects beautifully to our English learning community, too.
How so?
Because learning English on social media, watching short clips, reading quick tips, consuming grammar posts can feel like progress, but it is often passive consumption. You see it, you feel good for a moment, and then it disappears.
Because you didn't actually use it. You didn't engage with it deeply enough for it to stick.
Exactly. Real language learning requires the opposite of passive consumption. It requires active engagement, reading something slowly, listening carefully, repeating a word out loud, writing a sentence, making a mistake, and trying again.
Which is exactly what you're doing right now by listening to this episode. This is active. This takes patience. This is real.
And this is also why we always say, don't rush. Don't try to consume as much English content as possible in one day. Go deep with a little. That builds more than going shallow with a lot,
Quality over quantity, even in English learning.
especially in English learning.
Okay, so we're not saying delete everything. We're not saying social media is evil. That's too simple.
Right, because social media also has real value. It connects people across distances. It gives voices to people who were never heard before. It can be a source of genuine inspiration and community.
And I think that's why so many people who seem very active on social media, lots of posts, lots of followers, can still feel deeply unseen because they are getting attention, but they're not getting connection.
Attention and connection are not the same thing. Attention is when someone looks at you. Connection is when someone truly sees you.
That's the difference.
And I think this connects beautifully to our English learning community, too.
How so?
Because learning English on social media, watching short clips, reading quick tips, consuming grammar posts can feel like progress, but it is often passive consumption. You see it, you feel good for a moment, and then it disappears.
Because you didn't actually use it. You didn't engage with it deeply enough for it to stick.
Exactly. Real language learning requires the opposite of passive consumption. It requires active engagement, reading something slowly, listening carefully, repeating a word out loud, writing a sentence, making a mistake, and trying again.
Which is exactly what you're doing right now by listening to this episode. This is active. This takes patience. This is real.
And this is also why we always say, don't rush. Don't try to consume as much English content as possible in one day. Go deep with a little. That builds more than going shallow with a lot,
Quality over quantity, even in English learning.
especially in English learning.
Okay, so we're not saying delete everything. We're not saying social media is evil. That's too simple.
Right, because social media also has real value. It connects people across distances. It gives voices to people who were never heard before. It can be a source of genuine inspiration and community.
And I think that's why so many people who seem very active on social media, lots of posts, lots of followers, can still feel deeply unseen because they are getting attention, but they're not getting connection.
Attention and connection are not the same thing. Attention is when someone looks at you. Connection is when someone truly sees you.
That's the difference.
And I think this connects beautifully to our English learning community, too.
How so?
Because learning English on social media, watching short clips, reading quick tips, consuming grammar posts can feel like progress, but it is often passive consumption. You see it, you feel good for a moment, and then it disappears.
Because you didn't actually use it. You didn't engage with it deeply enough for it to stick.
Exactly. Real language learning requires the opposite of passive consumption. It requires active engagement, reading something slowly, listening carefully, repeating a word out loud, writing a sentence, making a mistake, and trying again.
Which is exactly what you're doing right now by listening to this episode. This is active. This takes patience. This is real.
And this is also why we always say, don't rush. Don't try to consume as much English content as possible in one day. Go deep with a little. That builds more than going shallow with a lot,
Quality over quantity, even in English learning.
especially in English learning.
Okay, so we're not saying delete everything. We're not saying social media is evil. That's too simple.
Right, because social media also has real value. It connects people across distances. It gives voice.
Okay, word tour time. Let's slow down and go through some of the most powerful words from today's conversation.
Yes, these are words that help you talk about attention, emotions, digital life, and how we relate to the world around us. Let's take our time. Relentless, adjective. Something relentless never stops. It keeps going continuously without rest or pause. The pressure to post on social media feels relentless. There is always something new to share. Her relentless effort to improve her English finally started to show results. Repeat. Relentless.
Highlight reel. Phrase. The best, most carefully chosen moments of someone's life, presented as if everything is always perfect. What you see on Instagram is someone's highlight reel, not their real everyday life. He felt bad about himself until he remembered he was comparing his reality to her highlight reel. Repeat. Highlight reel.
Social comparison. Noun phrase. The habit of measuring your own life, achievements, or appearance against other people's. Social comparison is natural, but social media makes it happen hundreds of times a day. She decided to take a break from social media because the constant social comparison was exhausting her. Repeat. Social comparison.
Passive consumption. Noun phrase. Taking in content without thinking deeply, engaging, or feeling anything meaningful. Hours of passive consumption left him feeling empty, even though he had been entertained. Passive consumption of English content is less effective than actively speaking and writing. Repeat.
Passive consumption.
Compulsive. Adjective. Done repeatedly without being able to stop, even when you want to. Driven by a strong, uncontrollable habit. Checking her phone every 5 minutes had become a compulsive habit she couldn't break. Compulsive scrolling is something many people struggle with, but rarely talk about. Repeat. Compulsive.
Intentional. Adjective. Done on purpose with full awareness and a clear reason, the opposite of automatic or accidental. He made an intentional decision to spend less time on social media and more time outdoors. Being intentional about how you use your phone can change your mood and your focus. Repeat. Intentional.
Stimulation. Noun. Something that excites the brain or senses and keeps it active and alert. Social media provides constant stimulation, which makes silence feel uncomfortable. After too much stimulation, the brain needs rest to function well. Repeat. Stimulation.
Profoundly. Adverb. Very deeply. In a way that goes to the core of something. She felt profoundly lonely, even though she had thousands of followers online. That conversation affected him profoundly and stayed with him for weeks. Repeat. Profoundly.
Disconnection. Noun. The feeling of being separated from people, from reality, or from yourself, even when surrounded by others. He noticed a growing sense of disconnection from real life after spending too much time online. Disconnection from the present moment is one of the hidden costs of constant phone use. Repeat. Disconnection.
Awareness. Noun. The ability to notice and understand what is happening around you or inside you. The first step to changing a habit is simple awareness, just noticing what you are doing. Awareness of how social media makes you feel is more powerful than any app limit. Repeat. Awareness.
Those were such strong words today.
They really were. And I love how they all connect, because the opposite of passive consumption is intentional awareness. The opposite of compulsive use is deliberate choice. And the opposite of disconnection is presence.
And presence is really what today was about. Coming back to your own life, your own attention, your own experience.
Before we go today, I want to leave you with one small thought.
Go ahead.
Your life, the real one, not the one online, is happening right now, in this moment, while you are listening to this, and it deserves your full attention. Not half of it, not what's left over after scrolling, all of it.
You don't have to quit social media. You don't have to be perfect about it. But maybe just once today, put the phone down and notice what is actually around you.
The person next to you, the sky outside, the feeling in your body, the sound of your own breathing.
That is your life, and it is worth being present for.
And this week's comment challenge, have you ever taken a break from social media, even for one day? What did you notice? Write it in English. Even one sentence. We will read it and we will reply.
We'll be looking for you in the comments.
And if today's episode felt like something a friend needed to hear, share it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave us a like. It helps more people find this little space.
And if you are learning English while also trying to live a more intentional life, we are so proud of you. That takes real courage.
Take care of your English.
And take care of your heart.
This is Daniel.
And this is Sophia.
And you've been listening to English with Heart. See you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.